Hello there. This is an open letter to the YouTuber Cody Ko. Hi, I'm the Fragrance Apprentice. I know, you're shocked, right? There are more people who review smelly liquid online other than Jeremy Fragrance. Trust me, you're not the only person to make that mistake. There's actually quite a few of us. There's an eclectic amount of us. I actually know Jeremy, personally. I wouldn't say I know him that well, but I know him. And I know the effect that is being made on the fragrance community by the fact that he's number one. It makes it a joke. And I'm very, very happy to openly say that. The absolute antics and circus of Jeremy Fragrance does not fully represent Frag Com. It does to a degree, and it doesn't represent what fragrances are all about. Fragrances are not just about sexy sex time with the sexiness. There's that element of it, and it would be ridiculous to ignore it. But there are people, such as myself, who believe that this is an art form and we take it very seriously. And part of the pleasure of being a fragrance reviewer is giving people recommendations so that they can smell good. But not just that, fragrance is also something that can have a serious effect on memory. Say, for example, Cody, if you had a good friend or there was a crush that you had in high school and they wore a specific fragrance or perfume or whatever, if you smelt it today, that would go straight through your olfactory system and you would be instantly reminded of them or a special time in your life or something of that nature. To me, fragrance isn't just a great way to smell good. I openly will wear fragrances at certain events, at certain moments, so that I know that in 5 to 10 years I'll sort of have a time capsule and I can just smell that fragrance and enjoy it. A great example of this would be watching my 1 hour video on 5 fragrances that I liked. When you get the time, mate, when you get the time. I know you're busy. In fact, just watch the first fragrance. That tells you sort of everything that you need to know about my connection with certain fragrances. So to sort of try and help you out and cynically get a ridiculous amount of views, I've decided to make a custom list just for you. I don't know too much about you, Cody. I know that you live in Venice, Los Angeles, great place, beautiful. I went there actually, stayed with Jeremy Fragrance to film his videos. In general, I love LA and there's a fragrance that reminds me of it, I'll get to that. But I know that that's where you live, so I've got the climate in mind. I know that you're an actor, that's what it says on your YouTube page. Obviously a content creator, you're probably a filthy millennial such as myself. So there's a little bit to go on, not too much, but I will try my best. So what I've done here is I've got 5 fragrances. This is like a top 5 list. It's an idea I came up with, completely original. So I'm going to recommend you a signature scent. A scent that if you walked into any room, people would know that it was you instantly by the fragrance that you're giving off. I'll try and give you a springtime fragrance, a summertime fragrance, an autumn-winter because, you know, it's LA and, you know, those two seasons kind of merge. And finally, a night-out fragrance, which is always a lot of fun. So, here are my 5 recommendations to you, Cody. You're a millennial. You live in a climate that can be very hot at times. You live in LA, Hollywood, all that kind of stuff. There's a certain thing that's going through my mind, which is the 90s. I watched a lot of 90s films, early 2000s, so I was immediately drawn to this. This is Ralph Lauren's Polo Deep Blue. I think that this could potentially be your signature scent. So Ralph Lauren, interesting brand. They've had their ups and downs. Mostly recently they've had a lot of downs. They've not been releasing very good fragrances. In the 2000s and the early 2010s they were just heckled to death with some of their releases. Not very good. But then this came out and this was a home run for them. And what this smells like is, it's really interesting. You'll have smelled something like this before. This is similar to Abercrombie & Fitch's Fierce. A little bit of CK1 in there. Tommy Hilfiger. A lot of Tommy Hilfiger in there. If you've smelled these young men's colognes from like the 1990s onwards, then this will be recognizable to you. So it's kind of harkening back to when Ralph Lauren were very cool. But it's also got this thing called ambroxan in it. And ambroxan is kind of like the new big notes, or the new big sort of aroma chemical at the moment, which you can find in such massive hits as Dior Sauvage, Bleu de Chanel, Ludic Rossic Carbon, which I was thinking about recommending to you, but I think that this is more of a fit to you. And so it's basically, this fragrance is bridging the gap between old school citrus marine fragrances that came out in the late 90s to early 2000s, coupled onto this new style of richer blue fragrance. So it's a little bit oceanic, quite citrusy, a little bit synthetic, a little bit padded with this kind of like a little bit of plastic element in here that's prevalent in these types of fragrances. But it's actually pleasant, it's actually really nice, and it really works well. They know what they're doing. So yeah, that would be my signature scent for you. This is kind of an interesting one. This is from a brand that's very niche. It's not really known about, so that's cool. That's going to be something that gives you a bit of uniqueness. That's Yuzu Soda by Strangers. Strangers Parfums. It's a little fragrance house from Thailand, headed by a guy called Prin Lomros, who I think is like a genius. I think that he's like the Picasso of fragrance. He's a true artist. So this is similar to this in a way, because this harkens back to the 70s. In the 70s, there were fragrances like Kuros by Yves Saint Laurent, well, 70s, 80s we're talking about here. Kuros by Yves Saint Laurent, Paco Rabanne Pour Homme, and they had this kind of bleachy urinal cake kind of smell that was kind of strangely very popular at the time. Men were into weird sort of fragrances at the time. So it's got that kind of bleachy, I know that sounds ridiculous, mate, trust me on this, it actually works out. It's kind of bleachy kind of smell, but it's tempered with this new school, fizzy, citrus, orange lemon scent. And it's light, it's precise, and of course in springtime in LA it's still going to be warm. So you need something that's going to work with that, but also the humidity level. And so that to me is really Yuzu Soda. Fantastic fragrance. I just realised that all that you're going to hit from me is that this smells like bleach and oranges. Just trust me, mate. So we get to the summertime, and then there's this. This is quite pricey though. Maison Francis Curjan, Aqua Universalis Forte. When I was 24, I went to Los Angeles to something called a Pitch Fest. You're probably very aware of it. Pitch Fest, where you go pitch your films. You spend $2,000 to go and pitch films, and you never hear back from them because they don't care, because they've got your money. Loads of people were there. It wasn't just me. I'm just saying that to sort of go, I'm not the only idiot who was there. I wasn't the only Mark who fell for the com. It was great. It was wonderful. But what was amazing, it was the first time that I ever went to LA, and I was staying in a Burbank hotel. And when I'd come home after the Pitch Fest, I'd watch Star Trek Voyager, which is my favourite television show of all time. And it was just so cool that I was pitching, of course, it was preposterous, and looking back at it now, I was very naive. But I was pitching films, and then I'd come back and watch Star Trek Voyager in LA, where it was shot originally in the 90s. It was just an absolute dream. And I wore this. And so to me, as soon as I smell that, bang. Just that whole trip. First time I went to Los Angeles, it was amazing. I'm from Scotland, where it rains all the fucking time. We don't know what the sun is in Scotland. It hasn't been invented yet. So this is a very wonderful, clear, floral fragrance. Francis Curjan, he did La Malle when he was 26 years old. Very controversial move for a 26-year-old to basically create the most popular fragrance of that era. So he's moved on, he's got his own company now. And this is an incredibly translucent, watery, floral fragrance. Very light, but yet very oily. And that's a really intriguing texture. The fact that it's like this, it's like this watery floral element, but it's like gel. The texture is just so oily. Absolutely amazing. In the high Los Angeles heat, that's going to do great. And people will like this on you. It's quite the compliment getter. Autumn winter I had to think about, because you do want something that is darker. That's traditionally what we do. We have darker fragrances. So the rule of thumb is, summer you want fragrances that are going to cool you down, and in autumn and winter you want a fragrance that's going to warm you up. But of course LA is incredibly warm in autumn and winter. So I thought about it again, and I decided to go with this. This is Versace Pour Homme Oud Noir. This is a very sexy fragrance, but I know that you're not too flash, dude. You know, you're not like too much of a show off. You've got your YouTube channel, you're an actor, but when I look at your videos, you're not Jeremy. You don't want something that's like over the top, something that's crazy. So I decided to go with this. This is a powdery oud. Oud's a really unique and rare note in fragrance. This is probably not real oud, it's probably synthetic oud. Oud's really interesting. Oud is like one of the most sought after ingredients for fragrance and for perfume oils and things of that nature. It's rare because an agarwood tree, which is a tree that grows in hot climates, I actually saw one when I went to India. An agarwood tree, when it gets very ill with a certain parasite, it produces this sort of, it's the same kind of thing where, you know, if you get a burn, your skin creates that sort of liquid to sort of shield it. That's what this tree does, but the liquid that it creates to protect itself, to essentially fight off the disease, is oud. And so it's very rare. It has to happen in a very specific set of circumstances, but it smells kind of like this very rich, intricate, bitter wood. And it's very interesting. And you can pick this up a little bit in this, but this is that bitter, unique wood, but it's also very sweet. It's very powdery, and because of that, it's spacious. So it's not a rich, intense oud. You don't want to wear a rich, intense oud in the middle of the Californian sun, let me tell you. Although some do, some don't care. But it wouldn't be preferable. That would be my advice, because you're just going to be choked out. You know, you're just gonna, your fragrance will literally suffocate you. But yeah, like, you could probably still wear this around about 18, 19, 21, 22 degrees centigrade. What is that in Fahrenheit? I don't know, mate. You've got Google, you'll figure it out. And so finally, night out fragrance. This was actually one of the easiest picks for me, because I love this fragrance, think it's great. And so I'm thinking it's nighttime, and night out doesn't have to be clubbing necessarily. You can just be going to dinner, going for drinks, things like that. Emporio Armani, Strong With You Intensely. I've been chatting a load of shit about this fragrance, absolutely love it at the moment, think it's great. And the reason why I like it is this. When you're a perfumier and when you want to make fragrance, you do think about compliments, you do think about good attention. So what do? It's easy to make one with summer. You just try and make the person who's wearing the fragrance smell very clean. And so that's what you get with these three. But what do you do when it's colder and you still want to make a fragrance that's not offensive and that's complimentary and all that kind of stuff? Well, if you can retain the freshness, the cleanliness that people usually react positively to, and that's why people give compliments in fragrance. If you can do that, but you can also have the discipline of creating something that's sweet and that has notes and smells that people recognize, like vanilla and chocolate and hazelnut and toffee and caramel. If you can put that together, then you're going to get a fragrance that everybody's going to like, everybody's going to enjoy, you're going to enjoy wearing it, and it's going to work with colder temperatures, or cooler temperatures in this case. This is that fragrance. It smells like vanilla, caramel, bit of hazelnut, bit of toffee, all those great things, right, that people love, all those sweet smells that people love. But it's also got this really intriguing freshness and cleanliness when you put it on, and so you don't smell as though you've just thrown chocolate and vanilla over yourself, right? You don't want that. That's too much. So that would be my recommendation for you there. Cody, mate, those are your 5 fragrance recommendations. Hope that you enjoyed them. And yeah, fragrance isn't just all about dancing around in your Speedos and saying maximum sexy time. There is that, and you can do all that, and that's lovely. But there are some of us who take this very seriously. It's not just me who does fragrance reviews, no sir. There's other people you should check out. Ashton from Gent Sense, or as I call him, Fragrant Jesus. My good friend Chris over at Fragmental. He's great. There's lots and lots of wonderful, beautiful female reviewers like Clemence, CC Fragrance. She's amazing. She really, really cares about perfume passionately. Jus de Rose, Demi Rawling, Smurfy Girly. Smurfy Girly's the best out of all of us. The best fragrance reviewer of all time is Smurfy Girly. I love her so much. And my sort of rival, I guess, a chap called Mr. Smelly. We're battling it out at the moment to decide who's the true leader of the Frag Com. Actually, I shouldn't tell you all that, because then you really will think that we're just all mental after I've put like so much effort into proving that we're not. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this list. Hope you enjoyed this video. For those of you who have never seen me before, hello, I'm the Fragrance Apprentice. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. I'm doing regular fragrance content at the moment. Anyway, I'm the Fragrance Apprentice. I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.